welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with Kristi and Michelle. So I'll remind people, Kristi, I think this is the third time that we've been in this virtual room together. Kristi has a freaking new role, and I'm excited about that. So I'm going to read it. It's Senior Director of Operations Integration, and doesn't that sound sexy?
Doesn't that sound like something you want to do?
Yes, I love it. And I love the fact that you've got a new role, and the focus of our time today is around reflection. You know, we're into a new year, 2024. And for anyone who does numerology, it's the year of 8, right? So if you add up the 2, 2, and the 4, it's 8. And those who do that say it's a good year. So I'm getting ready for a good year.
Yes.
Part of our time together is going to be reflecting. In fact, our time together is going to be reflecting on 2023 and thinking about what are those things from 2023 that you just maybe want to drop off. You don't want to pull forward in 24. What are the things in 23 that, and Kristi and I did not talk about this part of it, reflection. What are the stuff in 23 that you're going, you know what, I'm going to hang on to that. This is something that's going to serve me well in 24. And then let's just throw this in for the mix. What do I need to start doing, right? What is the stuff that I haven't done before, but it's like, you know what, I'm going to incorporate this into what's going on. So those are kind of the things that I'm talking about. So new year, let's kick it off with this quote. Oprah Winfrey, and let me find it. Here it is. And this made me laugh. It made you laugh too. Cheers to the new year and another chance for us to get it right.
Yes. Yes.
I'm excited. 2024, I'm excited about. When I think about me from 2023, a lot of change. You went through a lot of change in 23 with your new role. And if I think about something that I'm starting in 24 that I didn't do in 23, and people may laugh knowing that I do process improvement for a living too, along with coaching, is I need a process flow, a structure for my business. What does that look like for people booking an appointment and all that stuff? Because it's so freaking like hands-on, manual, time consuming. And so that's one of the things for me. It's like, let me build a foundation, a stronger foundation, so that I'm not the one touching and doing everything. That's one of the things kind of minds for me. And so I'm going to get it right this year.
We're going to get it right.
So what's on your mind?
When you say starting off, you're looking at your business and kind of planning for what that looks like. So I came into 2024 a month into this new role, and really trying to focus on what do I need to bring forward in my leadership skills, and what do I need to refine, and what do I need to leave behind. In my previous role, I had a much more diverse group of people that I was leading. And it's been a big change in this new role. So my toolkit's going to look a little different than it did in 2023. That reflection piece goes back to looking at that 2023 toolkit, seeing what worked and why did it work, and then seeing if it applies to 2024. And I'm trying to do that quickly because this role's happening. And so I really need to do some of that reflection a little bit faster than maybe I had anticipated.
So what's one tool that, and it's so funny when you did that, I had a visual that literally you're blowing the dust off of it. Yeah. What's one tool that you can think of, one approach, one whatever it may be, that you haven't necessarily had to think about or use in a while that you're like, you know what, this is going to serve me well here?
I think it's what I haven't had to use or think about. I use it all the time, but not really think about is almost how I present myself. The group of people that I had been around for years in my previous role, I had the relationships. We all knew each other. How I show up in that room, I didn't really have to think twice about.
Mm-hmm.
And I even, and I look back on that and I reflect on that and I look about bringing in new leaders and having the conversation with them about how you show up because you're brand new. People don't
Mm-hmm.
know you. So you need to be really aware of that because people that can really set somebody off when if you
Mm-hmm.
come in a way they're not used to. So this is something that I have to really reflect on. I need to think about when I step into a room how I'm going to show up and be really aware, self-aware of how I'm acting, my facial expressions,
Mm-hmm.
any sort of cue that somebody might pick up on.
That is, and when you said this, here's my brain went right when you were talking about that, is because I'm thinking about you and the role that you had, which was the foundation part of the organization, primarily that, and where there may be crossover with hospital, acute care, okay, but primarily foundation. And the role that you're in now, all bets are off. It's the org, right? So all of a sudden now you're dealing with people on geography wise, a different part of the organization, service line wise, a different part of the organization. Um, and so to your point, what came to mind for me is first impressions matter. I look back at you, look at real estate people, and they go, people know within I'm just gonna make crap up right now, but it's a very short period of time, 30 seconds, whether or not they like the house, right? So to your point, people are forming opinions about you, about us, about all of us as they meet. And so that internal narrative and story they have going on takes just a minute to unpack and change that perception if for some reason you've unintentionally stepped in something. And so it's an interesting thing to think about, with political savvy and EQ that you're going to show up with and being able to adjust to where if you look at it and someone has that look and you're like, let me clarify what I just said. Those little nuances matter more to your point because you don't have established relationships.
And you need people, especially in this current role, but in general,
Yeah.
I need people to trust almost immediately because we're working on some initiatives that need to be addressed quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a lot of time to build the rapport. So I need to really be mindful
Mm-hmm.
about when I step into that room. And I've already had an incident of where I showed up the way that I've always shown up.
Uh-huh.
It didn't go well.
Yeah.
And I went, wait a second, but this has worked well for me in the past. Why isn't this working well now? And that's right there is where I went. I need to rethink this tool.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. What are you most excited about? And this wasn't one of the questions I kicked off, but I have to wonder, especially you're in a freaking new role. What are you most excited about in for 2024?
A challenge going into the new role with me. When I'm reflecting back on 2023 and where I was, and being a little bit more comfortable and knowing my surroundings, knowing my people, knowing my day. I don't have that luxury right now, and
Yeah.
that is a challenge. Um, I'm looking forward to it. And I thought to myself, probably just a couple of days ago, maybe I needed to do this. I needed a challenge, and this is kind of testing every one of my boundaries that I haven't tested in a while.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for you and the opportunity. I get so excited for people that step into different things. I've been doing it a lot, and I have to think. And what's awesome about working for an organization like Sutter Health is that you can step into new challenges and new roles, like you did, literally into different functions, supporting different leaders, and not leave the org.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it a number of times within Sutter. And I think that's what's really cool about it, Kristi, is that the network and the relationships that you have, because you're a huge proponent for that, for building those relationships, those don't leave you, right? So all the entire part of the org that you built all those relationships over all those years they're going to come with you in the new role, which is
They,
going to be huge.
well, they come in more handy now than they did before. Um, you know, you have influence in some areas that you really need to move that forward. The relationship building, and I say it on every single one of your podcasts. If there's anything you ever walk away from, it's learn to build the relationships. It's the most important part of your leadership.
Mm-hmm. Um, I totally agree with you. And I have to wonder. So from 2023, what are you leaving behind?
Hmm. I think I'm leaving behind a little bit of stagnation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that goes again with the challenge. I'm leaving that behind, and I'm leaving behind. Um, and what you put a quote on LinkedIn not too long ago, just a couple of days ago. I'm
Oh, John Maxwell.
Yeah, I'm leaving behind um, stewing over what happened yesterday,
Yeah.
uh, and really focusing on you reflect, you still reflect, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't stew. And
Yeah.
then it's I'm going to, switch that to I'm going to use the 80-20 rule and do 80% of my time of what am I going to do today, and then how am I going to plan for tomorrow. So a little bit of reflection, not
Yeah.
going to stew on it, going to say, okay, what do I want to do today? And after I read that quote from you, and I had actually been really struggling with something that had happened the day prior, I went, wait a second, what do I want to do today to
Mhm.
really make this something special? And it changed the entire day for me.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think because there were two quotes that day that struck out, and I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to share both of them. And as the John Maxwell one was something about yesterday ended last night, and to basically what matters most is today, right? And so it's one of those things that I think what happens is the only way yesterday is in today is if we bring it with us. And so, to your point, it's like, and I was coaching a client earlier today that she was talking about the same kind of thing, right? She had made mistakes at work, a couple of them, and nothing catastrophic, but we tend to beat ourselves up. And especially if you're someone that can identify with being a perfectionist. I'm a recovering one, but made a mistake, and was still beating herself up about it. And part of the questions is, how do I not do that? How do I whatever? And I think part of it is, and she looked at me like I had 10 heads at first. I said, we need to laugh at ourselves because we didn't step in to intentionally make a mistake. We made a mistake and we're freaking human. But if we can learn to laugh about that, right, it's going to counter these negative saboteurs that we have in our head, these voices. And you're going to go, okay, ding dong, what were you thinking? And then figure out what do you put in place so that it doesn't happen again. And part of that stuff is when I think about it, Teresa Fry, and we had her on the pod. No, it wasn't Teresa Fry. It was, now I've forgotten who it was. So one of the leaders that we had on the podcast said, when you're present, be present. Gina Temple, that's who said it. When you're present, be present. And so if you think about some of these mistakes that we tend to make is because we're not fully present in the moment, right? We're spinning plates. So I may physically be here with you, but my brain is off here, my brain is forward, my brain is back to what's going on, all those different areas. So it's like figure out what your plan is, but don't beat yourself up about it. To John Maxwell's quote, yesterday ended last night. Okay, great. Boom. That was then. This is now. What's going to be different?
And if you made a mistake and you bring it forward, you're starting off the day in an ugly space
Mm-hmm.
and negative. How's that
Yes.
going to influence the next decision you make or how you show up the next time? And as soon as you kind of let that go and you say, wait a second, I'm all in for today and I'm tackling today,
Yeah.
it does make a huge difference.
Yeah. The other thing that comes to mind for me, and then I want you to share a quote because you found one too that it was really cool from John Dewey. The other thing that comes to mind when you say that is if we're in this space to where we're mentally beating ourselves up, we're mentally stressed. So we've got cortisol in our system, everything else, and we're not firing on all cylinders. We're the creative part of our brain's not firing. We're literally in a form of fight or flight, being there's a hungry tiger chasing me, and I've got to get the heck out of here. So you got to pull out of that, and pulling out of it can be realizing, okay, I'm going to, let go of the anchor that's holding me back to yesterday, laugh at myself. We're, all perfectly imperfect beings. Set the intention forward to your point, and then go all in.
Yes. Yeah. And, if you are bringing that forward and you have somebody that you are leading walk in and see you, and see how you're showing up too, then you're changing how their day is going to go. So you really want to say, I need to be different than I was yesterday. I need to be in the moment. I need to be thinking about I can do this and I can tackle today. And here's how I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I love it. What's the quote from John Dewey?
The quote is, we do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience.
Thank you. And that is freaking true. And John Maxwell had one similar, and I can't remember what it was, but it's about, you have this thing, and you could do the definition of insanity by doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I think you could get into that mode if you're not reflecting on the experience. To your point, I'm all in today. It's not what happened then. So I do love that quote. Thank you.
When I read that quote, what I kind of compared it to is your resume. So when you're looking at your experience, reflect on that and say, what did I do? So you might put on there, for instance, something that's on my CV is I had the joy of being able to present at a national conference with Dr. Kelly Burke on dyad relationship. And and that's just part of, here's what I've done. And I reflect on that now and that experience, and how was I? What did I do well? What could I do better? What did I learn from that experience? Because if you just put an experience down and you don't reflect on it, then how do you know it was really a meaningful experience? How do you know you learned something from it that you can actually bring forward?
Well, and you know what? You say that, and the thing that came to mind for me is how have I changed as a result of that experience, right? Because odds are, in the preparation for something like that, you're growing during that preparation if it's something that you've never done before. And I think that creates the opportunity to go, you know what? I freaking did a great job. And I love that kind of stuff. The other thing, and Rocco and I've talked about before, is take a look around and have great gratitude for all those similar kind of opportunities, right? Because there's a lot of people in this world of ours. How many people got to present?
Right.
I mean, it's like, how lucky am I? That I was part of the select few that got to do this. And oh, by the way, there's growth involved in it. I was able to impact people. Do I have new connections now? Do I have a different relationship with Kelly Burke as a result of doing this presentation? All that stuff. And reflection is going to be part of that. If you didn't, it'd be done, check box, and off I go.
Yeah. And if somebody really sat down and looked at your experiences and had a conversation with you, are you prepared to really speak to those experiences? Because have you really reflected on them in a meaningful way to where you could really talk to somebody about what was your role? Not what was the project, not what was the outcome. What was your role and experience in that experience that you have there? Can you really speak to that? That's reflecting.
So I feel like you're talking to me in that way. In all honesty, Kristi, I think about it, I'm like, God, could I do that? I mean, there may be some that I'm thinking about that, but I think it's a worthwhile activity for me to think about for myself, because I don't know that I've ever thought of it that way.
Well, and as leaders, and we, depending on whatever industry you're in, maybe you're putting something down there, some wonderful financial target that you
Mhm.
met.
Yeah.
What was your part in that?
Yeah.
What did you do really well? And what do you need to work on moving forward? What would you have done differently?
Hmm.
And can you really say I had an impact on that, or was this just something that happened in your space? And
Hmm.
so I think it's a really good exercise in, am I reflecting on my experiences in a way that I understand exactly where I was and what my part of that was?
Yeah, the thing that I'll add to that, because I agree with you, is the higher up the ladder, if you will, that you go in an organization, you may not have been the direct impact on something. And this is, I think, the so critical in leadership is to sit and ask and say, you know what, could it have played out the way it played out had my leadership not created the space for people to step in and do what they did? Because there's plenty of times that leadership has stopped people in their tracks to where they're not engaged, they're not accountable, they can't move the needle. They're not developed, they're not, feeling respected or anything like that. And then you've got leadership that literally, is clear on the what, here's our strategy, here's what has to be done, all that. But the how is up to the people that are actually doing it and that project team. But leaders create the space and the opportunity for people to move forward in that way. So I think it's important that leaders understand and realize the power in that part of their role.
Oh, I could not agree with you more, because often I think as leaders, we can even get imposter syndrome,
Yep.
because if we aren't really reflecting on how we created that space, then we go, how did I get here? Do I
Yeah.
deserve to be here? Is this, did I really earn my way here? And
Mhm.
that's why the reflection piece is so important, and really
Yeah.
reflecting on our experiences.
Yeah. No, I agree. Thank you. So I freaking appreciate this time. I joke with you last time you were on. I said anytime, just come back. And you're like, I'll be here tomorrow. So it took a bit for tomorrow to come, and tomorrow's here.
Not too long.
Tomorrow's here. So Kristi, what are one or two things that you want people to walk away with in our time together?
Always relationship building. um but something else, when you're reflecting, especially when you're reflecting on interactions with others, don't reflect on how the person showed up. Always reflect on yourself, because I think sometimes if we're reflecting on an interaction, I might say, especially if the interaction didn't go well, Michelle didn't look like she was in a good mood. It was
Hmm.
Michelle's fault. This is
Hmm.
why the interaction didn't go well. Instead, what I need to do is make sure that I'm focused on and reflecting on how I came into that experience, so that I'm working on what I might do with you differently, or what I
Hmm.
might do with somebody. But you are letting yourself go. You are giving yourself a pass if you're reflecting on somebody else's,
Hmm.
the way that that person showed up versus the way that you showed up.
Yeah. I I'm bobbleheading. I'm obviously agreeing. But what comes to mind for me is that back to the thing is we have 0% control over somebody else, but we have 100% control over ourselves and how we respond, react, whatever that may be. And that reflection piece is powerful because it is the combination of everyone and what they're doing and saying that results in whatever the outcome is. So I agree with you. I think the other piece for me when I think about the previous year and stepping into a new year, for me when I looked at stuff, I looked at 2024 and what I'm excited about, growing the business, doing all that stuff, but I wanted to step back for a minute. And I encourage other people to do it too, is when you've got all these goals, because I've got my vision board, I've got all this stuff, I got 50 zillion lists, is where do you start? And so for me, I had to get really clear on starting with what's not working for me right now, right? That I need to shore that up as I move forward. I'm still moving forward. So it's like building a car when you're driving down the road. But at least I'm not flying the plane as I'm building it. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, but I think that's it. It's like, be clear on where you start. I mean, you may have 10 or 15 things that you want to do. You can't do all 10, 15 at the same time, but which one is the one that you're going to start with and then build on that? I think that's what comes to mind for me. And then frickin' celebrate and be excited about stuff. I mean, laughter is so freaking powerful.
And celebrate one step. Don't
Mhm.
wait till you get to 100 steps.
Yeah.
Celebrate one step.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
that important.
Totally agree. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All
Thank you.
right. This has been Leadership Sound Bites with Michelle and Kristi. And until next time, and please like, share, subscribe. And if you want to be on the podcast, a guest, just drop me a message. Thank you.